Healthy Swag is a movement to holistically empower Black men to take charge of their healthcare and thrive in every aspect of their lives. We will strive to educate, entertain, and spark meaningful conversations that fearlessly intertwine healthcare with diverse topics such as pop culture, sports, relationships, fatherhood, work, politics, and even sex. Together, we will break barriers, shatter stereotypes, and create a paradigm shift that uplifts Black men to new heights of success. Join us as we engage valuable insights and knowledge. How's your swag?
All right. So on the break, Columbus, you were about to say something, man, and I said pause. Hold on.
Yeah, man. You held up the hand and said pause, for real, for real. But one of the conversations behind the scenes I started to try and have was, Joey mentioned something. He mentioned something about, despite all of his accomplishments, still wondering if this is all that he had to contribute, if there was something else that he knew. And it brings me back to an interview that TD Jakes did. And I've since incorporated into some of the things I talk about, which is just, listen, there is no period behind our names, and God puts comma behind our names. And he went on to say, I'm not just a preacher. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a businessman, and this and that and the other. And that's one of the things that I think all of us that we have to realize is that we're more than just one thing. It doesn't matter what that one thing is or how successful it is. You can be multiple things. And so I think that that's wonderful that you came into that realization of the fact that you have even more to offer than what you have already contributed to the world, and this catalog of success that you've had that's going to be there for your kids and the next generation, but there's more that you have to offer. So I just wanted to kind of comment on that and affirm what you went through in that whole process. And I think that's something for all of us to listen to. I know, Q, you're doing that right now, right? Mm-hmm. It's like you're finding your purpose in a different pathway. I'm doing the same thing because we're capable of great things under God's will and his grace and his mercies. So,
right.
Yeah,
absolutely. I feel like, no one, you can't really, you shouldn't be put in a box. Let's put it that way. And, if God speaks to you about something and he's placed something on your heart, who are we to say no? And who are we to reject that calling? It's just great to see that you could have just rested on your laurels and said, man, I've done all this, I've accomplished all this, I've given all this music to the world and this and that, and everybody would have probably been okay, but you wouldn't have been okay with that because of what you went through. So I wanted to come back to just talk about how you went from feeling this epic failure of divorce, and that you were yourself personally were a failure, to the point where you healed from that, or you recovered from that, and now you're wanting to bring that same healing to other divorcees.
The subject that really I'm led to now is one, performance-based relationships. I grew up in a performance-based relationship. I was a competitor, a swimmer when I was in my middle school years, and my dad was really the coach. He was the shouting behind me that pushed me forward. And so I played all sports, most sports, flag football, baseball, swimming. And so I was very competitive. But not until I got into adulthood did I realize that I was raised in a performance-based relationship. And what happens in that kind of relationship is you feel like your importance, your significance is in your performance.
Oh, my goodness.
So that if you're not performing, who am I? Dude, now this immediately, I know, Quentin, gets into the mindset of the patients that you see. You've got to get into the mindset, and I know you deal with it. But
can I just say that I think this is universal for men in particular, because we judge our value based on how much money we make, how hard we work, how we perform on the court, how we perform in the bedroom, how we perform everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's what we base our value on. And so it's such a dangerous thing
Yeah.
to
Well, I'm gonna
base
say
your value on.
I think it's society that sets that value, right? I mean, society looks at us when you walk in, they're matching up, either you've succeeded or you haven't, based off of what your job is, what you've accomplished, even the things that you had nothing to do about, how tall you are, right? I mean, all these things society put the priority on it. Unfortunately, sometimes the opposite sex does too as well.
Yeah.
In terms of like your value, that's where the value's put.
Yeah. So I begin to realize this because of a problem that I did an attributes assessment that really just highlights how you show up to the table, what drives you to the table in terms of motivation, and what talents you bring to the table. And this assessment essentially brought out the fact that I have low self-esteem. Now, you made a comment in the last segment that was talking about, man, you just so, you're so humble or whatever the case was. But the truth is, my self-esteem has been shot for years. And it's been shot because the cart has been before the horse. It's always been about my performance. And see, watch this. My performance started in a performance-based relationship with my father. If I didn't come in first, we'll strive for the next situation. But he was always about, you need to beat the socks off these people. You need to smack the ball out the park. You need to run the touchdown. And it's like you end up feeling like, if I don't do this, if I don't come in first, if I don't smack it out the park, then there's an approval that I don't have. There's a validation that I'm now missing if I don't perform. And this little thing happened is one of the fears that happened. I got into baseball, and in practice, I would smack it out every practice. Like as soon as I stepped up the bat, everybody in outfield would start heading toward the fences. Like, here we go again. I mean, it's going over.
Sammy Sosa.
I could not, when I got into a game, I always choked. I could barely connect in a game. And it brought such a sense of shame to me that I began to walk it out as an adult. So that this is the downside of a performance-based relationship. If you don't perform, then you don't have the validation you're looking for. I don't have the affirmation. Look at any one of these athletes and let them get an injury. And I guarantee you they're probably going to be asking, well, who am I now? If I can't play football, well, who am I? That's why we put so much energy on don't get injured. Well, what will I do now? How will I feed my family? How would I get out the ghetto? How will I, it's all performance-based relationship. And so my self-esteem was low. And what it said was, you place all your importance on your performance. Now watch this. I moved from playing Little League and all that kind of stuff to getting into a group that performs. And even in this group, you don't escape it. If I tell these guys, fellas, the guy, they know this. It's this unsaid thing that you're only as good as your last performance. If your sound wasn't right, if your performance wasn't right, if something was in the way, people judge you by being, that was a bad performance. Are y'all still singing? I mean, y'all still do, it's all based upon your performance. Now watch this. In 2020, I had to get surgery on my voice because there was a polyp that had to be surgically removed. And I'm sitting here like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize that if this surgeon slips a millimeter to the left or right, I can't sing, I can't speak. This is the surgery that all vocalists fear. Like, and it's such shame attached to this as well, because it says you must have made a mistake. You must have messed up somewhere because you need surgery. You did something wrong. You see the shame that's still now resurfacing as an adult, to where I'm sitting here like, oh my goodness, what is how is my family going to survive? And I'm having conversations like, babe, you're going to have to carry it if this such and such happens. Because everything is based on your performance. And so my self-esteem, and what it said was, there needs to be a certain esteem just because you are who you are. Before you ever step to a mic, before you ever lift your hand to do something or lift your foot to go somewhere to perform, there's a certain level of esteem that you should have because you were created.
Value.
Because a creator thought to bring you into existence before you ever perform or say or do anything. And you need to really focus now on God. Okay, God, I need to raise my self-esteem, because it can't all be riding on the next performance. Well, what happens if I can't perform today? Well, what's going to happen to my marriage? And of course, I'm sure you're going to get to it at some point. At one of these situations, like, oh my goodness, my PSA is up. What does that mean? Oh my goodness, am I going to be able to, whenever you have to ask, if this stops, who am I? That's what I'm talking about. So, and I'm going to say this real quick. The other side of performance is that you can't make mistakes. If you're going to have a good performance, you need mistakes. But in a performance-based relationship, if every ball you have to hit out of the stadium, then I don't have the liberty of making mistakes, because I'm not going to get validated if I don't smack it out the park. And so many more times I'm leaving dejected because I couldn't smack it out the park. And so when you get to marriage and divorce and your marriage fails, once again, you failed to smack it out the park. Once again, you failed to connect. And so that mindset is what led to, there's got to be more than this. There's got to be something deeper than this. And so I know you asked me what led to understanding that you need to recover from divorce, because it's like I faced a lifetime of being a failure. If there's no second chance, if there's no recovery, if there's no learning, if there's no rehabilitation, then I'm a failure for the rest of my life. And I watched my father go through this in his divorce, and kids they may never say it to you, but they live what it is they learn from you. And I learned from watching his behavior that he felt like this was his epic failure, and he got remarried, but he always suffered for that first failure. That first and you could see it even till today, that it's not just I failed. You go through, I'm a failure. And that's part of the process that led to what you asked.
I think Columbus and I can both relate to it, not just on a man level, but also for what we do, because, we're expected as surgeons, as interventionalists to bat 1,000.
That's right.
We can't get it wrong. Right. If we do, that could be the difference sometimes between life and death. So that pressure, but that value that, I know some physicians, you probably do too, Columbus, that it's not just, musicians or, people in entertainment. Like, I know physicians that's all that they know that they are. Like, if they did not have medicine, they would die. Like they practice until they shouldn't anymore, because if they stopped, they wouldn't know what to do with themselves. Their identity is so wrapped up into that. And I think this is just such an important point. And I want to hear your comments on this, Columbus, too. Like how do we gain validation just as men, not for what we do, or for what we bring home, or how we perform. Like, where does that process start? And as Christians, obviously we believe that, hey, we're valued because we're children of God. And He died for us, so that automatically puts value. But we all know that. Well, so why don't we feel that, or why is that so hard to translate?
My question is very similar. And I think everything you said, it resonates with all of us, with that whole paradigm of, if I don't perform in whatever the spectrum that I'm in, then there's going to be shame put on me to some degree, whether or not that's from my colleagues, if it's from my family, whatever it may be. And you said something like, I'm a failure. And it's not that. I want to push back and say, it's not that. When you say you're a failure, it's the esteem portion of it. So the real crux of it is, how do you transform the esteem level, that sense of self-worth? Mm-hmm. How do you really dig into that? Because that is the foundational issue that's there, right? Because as you said it, we make mistakes every day. That's the process of learning. That's what we do. Mm-hmm. Every time I'm in the lab doing procedures, I roll off my tongue about my most just tyrant of an attending who would put me through the barricades and try and make me make mistakes. And now I remember all those things. Okay, this is blah, blah, blah. This is what we got to do. Let's plan. This is what we're going to do. Because I'm trying not to make a mistake. Mm-hmm. And yeah, granted, there's lives in that moment that are important. But the same thing, one thing I'm going to say that I want to hear what you have to say about the esteem part. And this is so interesting conceptually. So where we went to school, you basically had two categories of individuals. You had singers and you had preachers. Mm-hmm. You had the Eric Thomases, you had the Joey Kibbles, you had the Dewan Starlings, you had the Eric Walsh, you had the Pucky Fordhams, you had the Buddy Birds. Mm-hmm. And then you had those who were either doing whatever they were doing in the backdrop. Mm-hmm. And so I'll never forget that I decided I wanted to run for a particular position. I got up there and it was a Southwest moment. I got to get away. I got to get away. He's going to run off that stage. It was a complete disaster, right? I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
But the crazy part is the fact that growing up, my parents at times would do things that made me think that I had a level of resiliency that it didn't matter if I stunk up the joint. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That it was like, oh, here, I bought you this bottle of Martinelli's because you won. They didn't know if I won or if I lost.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so when that allowed me to get back on the horse. And get back again and again and again. And so I think it is so important. But I guess the question is, how do you build that esteem? Whether or not it's for us as men, whether it's for our kids and everything else like that. How you build that esteem that allows you to be resilient against the storms of failure that we're all going to face.
Let me just before you jump in, I just made an observation between the two of you, what you all said. And it was basically your esteem, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like your esteem comes from your parents and how they treat you, particularly how they value you or show you your value. Would you not agree? Because I kind of felt the same way that you felt, Columbus. Like I had this sort of built-in thing that I just felt like it didn't matter. I was still loved, but
I'm going to push back and say, not at all. My self-esteem is, I'm that dude. So for instance, before today, like when I saw Joey on the stairs, I wasn't going to talk to you because I figured you're going to be like, I don't know this dude. Right? No, just being completely straight up. That's my personality. Is like, I don't want someone to because my self-esteem, they may not know who I am or look over me or anything else like that. So I'm not going to put myself out there. Mm-hmm. So my natural inclination is to say, I don't know. There's people who I know they know me, but I'm not sure if they're going to remember me. So I don't say anything to them at all. Right. So I wouldn't say, so it's weird.
Fear of rejection.
Yeah, it's rejection. I think it's a level of self-esteem for years. And I'm going to stop there. Joey, I want to hear what you have to say. Mm-hmm. I literally was dating my wife for about 3 years. And every time I would call her, I said, hey, this is Columbus. Mm-hmm. Why did I do that? I didn't want her to be like, who is this? Call out somebody else's name. I literally, and she finally said, all right, I know who you are. Could you stop saying this is Columbus? I know who you are by this point. All right, we're almost about to get married. I know who you are.
Buddy, wow.
Do you see how much your limiting beliefs play in in the decisions you make? That's what I'm saying is so human about this.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the accomplishments of you guys and everything that you accomplished and the accolades that you bring to the table now, you still go through these limiting beliefs that nobody would know about. You know what I'm saying? Now, yes, a lot of it comes from, and I can only speak for myself, it comes from the authority, the first authority figure that you had in your life. And if that authority figure has the clarity to be able to say, you're free to make mistakes, that has nothing to do whether you're valid or not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In fact, you're not going to advance until you make some good mistakes and learn from them. But if you don't feel free to be able to make mistakes or then learn from them, then I've already put myself in a box. Unfortunately, in my situation, because my dad didn't feel like he could make mistakes, I got my understanding about making my mistakes from the biggest authority that was in my life at the time.
Right.
And he didn't have it figured out. And now as an adult, that's okay. It's okay that he didn't have it figured out at the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. And one of the most powerful moments was telling each one of my parents, look, I don't hold that against you that you got divorced. It let me know that I'm human.
That you're
human.
human.
The fact that you do make mistakes. What's important is, did you learn from your mistake? Every new breakthrough in the medical community is a result of something else that failed. Every new piece of equipment is an outworking of another piece of equipment that failed. And they're not beating themselves up about it. Look at the vaccinations we have for COVID now. I'm not seeing where doctors are beating themselves up and research, people who do research are beating themselves up because, vaccination 904 failed. I'm out of here. Vaccination 703 failed. That's it. I'm throwing in the towel. They learned from what didn't work. They applied it to the next attempt, and they're celebrated because vaccination 1003 actually hit the mark. Nobody's even thinking about the other ones that didn't work. So one, you have to, and we have to know, especially with our kids who are in college now, it's okay for you to make mistakes. I'm not tripping that you made a mistake. What did you learn from it?
That's right.
What did you walk away from this time? And then you turn around and realize, that's how God treats me, doggone it.
Absolutely.
It's like, I already paid for your sins. But what do you need to do next time that will cause you to learn from this situation? I'm not penalizing you for it. All penalization has been put on my son so that you can be free to make mistakes and then learn what you need to do the next time. And I encourage it. What? That's not the God I grew up hearing about. So to the second thing to answer your question is, I had to, as a spiritual man, go back to the word and say, what? So my dad, he's gone as far as he can. He's poured into me as much as he's able to pour into me as far as self-esteem. Like he's finished. He's tapped out. But earthly fathers are only small shadows that you have a heavenly father. And so now I go to my heavenly father who created me to ask him, what do you think about me? What do you say about me? Like, who am I? And when you can go through and hear Psalm 139:14, you're fearfully and wonderfully made. What? So that's telling me I'm more than enough. Now you're speaking to my self-esteem. Because if my creator said I'm more than enough, and he's like, man, I celebrate the work that I made in you. Now, before I ever perform, my father is saying, you are so filled with value that I rejoice every time you open your eyes. I rejoice when you make mistakes because I made you in my own image. Now, if you don't believe this, then you're going to be struggling with your self-esteem because now all that's left is for me to perform. And I can't even sustain that for the rest of my life. But when he says, wait a minute, John 15:16, you've been chosen and set apart by Jehovah to be abundantly fruitful, which means to be able to get results and that your results will last. Wait, that's how you created me? Like, that's who I am? This changes how I approach performance. I'll still perform, but I'm not performing to get approval. I'm performing because I am approved already.
Yeah.
Which means, guys, that if there comes a time where you move from medicine into something else, your value and importance has not changed. That means that you're still important. He still thought about putting you on this earth, and whatever you do next is going to augment this chapter of your life that was marked by this accomplishment. Because your value is more than your performance and more than your accomplishment.
I think the best thing that we can do is take that knowledge and apply it to how we parent our kids. Because I think if we did the same things, use the same approaches, we probably wouldn't have relationships with our kids. And that's the one thing that, you just have to look back and say, look, you're right. God does not deal with us like this. So who are we to deal with our kids?
Come on, man.
Like you've done the unpardonable sin. If I found a vape or whatever, it's like, hold on. it's not like that. And we have tried, intentionally to look, be honest with us, let us know what's going on. All hell's not going to break loose if we find out something, but we want to know, if there's a problem, we want to know. And I feel pretty good now that I think we've broken that cycle that, we have that type of relationship where they do feel more comfortable admitting mistakes and letting them see you and your mistakes, and being transparent about that. I think that's so important. So, taking what we've learned and applying that to our kids. Columbus, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, listen, before my daughter left, we had a little blessing, a little prayer session, and people come over. And the theme was consistent, which is we expect you to make mistakes. We're going out here. We expect you to make mistakes, but we want you to feel comfortable communicating to us. If you don't feel comfortable communicating to me as your father or to your mother, then you have this community that's here, this village, that you can find someone that you can communicate with, that will hold it close to the vest and will be there for you. They have your best interests at heart. I think that that's valuable when you know that, listen, I can make mistakes. It allows you to move in without fear. Right? It allows you to move without fear. It's just like athletes. When they go out there and they know they have the green light, they're not going to be yanked and pulled to the back of the bottom of the bench. I'm going to take this shot. I'm going to come back and take another shot and take another shot because they have validation from the coach.
Yes, nothing like it.
Yeah. So we're trying, our job is to validate our kids so they can feel comfortable for being out there. And I think like you said, Joey, God did that for us. He did throughout scripture. I think he even did it for David before he even did all his mighty works, called him described him as a man of valor and so forth. And so you're almost speaking into existence, so to speak, as it relates to it. But this is something that it's factual. And I think it's so important as it relates.
I feel like, especially as African-American men, we gotta tell each other, you are valuable before you ever perform, before you run another touchdown, before you shoot another basket, before you actually, before your points, they sit there and add up your points to see if you're important. You are valuable before you ever do anything else, because this society will base your entire standing on your performance. And the moment you mess up, they will cancel your behind. And God is not like that. His thing is, look, I loved you when you acted like my doggone enemy. You weren't working with me at any point, and I loved you and died for you then. So now, come on, man, I'm not going anywhere. Right. And as black men, we need to hear, I'm not going anywhere. Like, you can make mistakes, and I'm not going anywhere. You're not canceled. You're not invalidated. And so when I understand that I can make mistakes now, then I go back and I look at the big mistakes that I made that should have canceled me for the rest of my life. And it's like, wait a minute, you forgave me for that? And that's actually part of my crown? Oh my goodness, let me at him. Let me go and tell people, you know what I'm saying? That's and right. He is good about, I hate to, make this more religious, whatever. But when he told Peter, when you screw up, when you screw up, not if, I know you will screw up because you're human. After this whole situation, I want you to strengthen your brother. That was so powerful because it said, I know you will screw up. You don't know yourself like I know you. You talk about how you draw the sword for me, you go to death for me, whatever. I know all it takes is this, and you will sell me out. I'm not even tripping about that because I know you'll sell me out. When you're converted, I want you to turn around and strengthen your brothers. Can you know how powerful that was when he screwed up? When everybody was trying to put the shame on him and he remembered, oh, God said this would happen. And then he said, go strengthen your brethren. That means I'm going to recover from this. Oh, dude, that is the affirmation that all of us as black men need to hear. Absolutely. That you are not your performance. You're not even your accomplishment. You're more than that.
Well, that resonates so strongly with me, not just for myself, but for my sons who both play sports, and they're surrounded by a lot of the D1 athletes, and I've seen dreams get crushed. I've seen scholarships get taken, offers get taken off the table. They were all hot and heavy for you, and then you tweak something or you break something, and nobody wants to talk to you anymore. And the blow that gives to your psyche, your value. I mean, unless you are really underpinned with something more solid than just what you do on the court or on the field, that will crush you. And so that's such an important message for men, particularly black men, who oftentimes are lauded for what they do on the field, on the court, and not necessarily for anything else.
Yeah. No, listen, I'm going to tell you, it's important. I was sharing with you, Joey, that a little bit earlier that I served in a particular administrative role. And so I served 12 years and then my time ended. So I went through a period of time where I wasn't doing an administrative role. So I was no longer chief. I was just working, right? And doing my other stuff. Mm-hmm. And what's so interesting is that to see everything that you do get dismantled, and you start to kind of, for a second, my mind started to go there of like, man, what is this all about?
Yeah.
Right? You know, it's like my office is gone.
Yeah.
My office isn't even here anymore.
Yeah.
I have an office.
Yeah.
You're putting boxes in my office.
Yeah.
I mean, the programs I set up are gone.
Yeah.
You know, but God opens doors, and I'm doing something else now. And the thing is that what I learned during that period of time that gave me peace was that my validation is not in the title. Or in these things, or in the title of doctor, or of this administrative role, or anything else like that. And I came to a place of peace. So much so that when time came for me to throw my hat in the ring for something else, I actually was interviewing them to see if I felt like I wanted to work with them.
How about that?
Because I was not pressed to go and take another position.
I love it. I love it.
As I started asking them questions and turning the table in that moment, because I was at peace, and I'm still at peace. And my feeling is just the fact that if this is not for me, if God has something else for me, another door, another avenue, another pathway, I'm going that route. I'm not going to stay forced down one area because of a title or a prestige, because of the fact that I am validated.
That's right.
In myself, not by them or by a title.
That's right. So you know that whatever table you find yourself at next, I'm going to bring the thunder to this table too. Because I'm more than enough. God said I'm more than enough. He spoke all these words all throughout the Bible to me about who I am. If he takes me from this and puts me somewhere else, I'm going to bring the thunder to that as well, because that's how I've been created.
That's who I am.
So it doesn't matter what actually comes next. We come to this place when our kids now go to college. Oh my goodness. Well, they're not here anymore. So what do I do with my life now? And what do I do with my time? And what do I focus on now? That empty nest syndrome is a real thing.
Oh yeah.
And many marriages that have been based on child raising, once the kids are gone, well, who are we now?
Yep.
That's what performance-based relationships look like. Now, again, let me answer your initial question. Once I realized, my biggest failure was just a failure. Just something I am not my failure. I am not my mistake. I screwed up, but I'm not a screw up, because my identity is in a whole nother place that can't be touched. Then I can say, okay, let me take everything I learned from this divorce, recovery, everything that I went through, everything that I failed at, and let's turn them into lessons now that we can give to people who've gone through the same thing. And that was a process of time. That didn't happen overnight.
But it's probably involving some therapy too, I would imagine.
Oh, it was oh man. And when I tell you all that therapy is golden,
Talk
and
about
again,
it.
African-American men. Oh, here's where it is. Here's where the performance-based mindset happens. African-American men can't go for help because you have to have it together. You can't say, I need help. You can't say, I don't have this figured out. Because the expectation is put on you. Oh, if you don't know, then you're a failure. Oh my goodness. If you don't know how to handle this first swing, who are you?
Maybe you're not the man.
The African American that goes through this and says, I need help, but I don't think I can say I need help. Therapy was golden, because all they're doing is they're tooling you in this area that you need tooling in. They're not tripping when you do it in football. When you bring the physical therapist to the field, they're not tripping and be like, oh, he shouldn't have been here. She shouldn't be on the team because he needs physical therapy. Then why do we act like this is undoable? Like we shouldn't ever need to ask for help or say, dude, I don't have it together yet. Help me.
Man, listen, I'm going to tell you how powerful that is and how empowering it is.
Yes.
There was a switch that flipped in me probably about 5 to 7 years ago. And I started being like, you know what? I'm going to say it out loud. I don't know. Or I'm going to actually ask you a question of what is this? And so I tell this story all the time. I do it all the time to people. They'll throw out some acronym. They'll say something and I'm sitting there and everyone's quiet. I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about. I'm like, excuse me. What exactly is it that you're saying? What does this mean? I would probably be willing to bet 7 out of 10 times they have no idea.
Wow.
No, everybody is afraid to show vulnerability that they don't know. Yeah. Everyone across the board. This just literally happened 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
They threw out terms and I said, what does that mean? They said, actually, I don't know.
Wow.
Right. Right.
So you're telling me, right? You're telling me. I mean,
yeah.
This is so. This is a conversation that needs to be had so much because there's such a stigma placed on therapy and getting help. But I mean, I will tell you, some of the most successful people in this world have therapists. I mean, you think about it. Yeah, I was reading about this guy. He was the founder of Blackwater, a multi-billion-dollar industry. I mean, just man, hand over fist money. And somebody said, "Oh, go see a therapist," and he was like, "I don't think so." He said that was the best money he ever spent. And this guy had money out the wazoo, but he saw a therapist. And if people are honest, and really, therapy isn't. No one's really. The answers that are already there, really, that you have, they kind of bring it out and allow you to talk about it. But you really kind of know they're sort of facilitators in helping you sort out your thoughts and your feelings and framing it. I see a therapist, at least once a month. And I've said this before, I feel like every Black man in America needs to see a therapist.
Can I say this in terms that maybe will make a Black man feel a little bit better? If you have a performance car, if you have that dream car that you want, everybody who's had that car for a little while, watch this. And the car is for performance. We love performance cars. We love the Lambos. We love the Ferraris. We love the BMWs. But when you see a driver that has a relationship with his mechanic, watch this. They go in, they make sure the more expensive the car, the more devoted to the relationship with the mechanic they are. Because they're making sure they take that thing for oil changes. They're making sure that those high performance expensive tires are being changed out. They're making sure that all the needed maintenance is happening every 3,000 miles or every 5,000 miles. Or I guess more expensive car, probably the lower miles, every 1,500 miles. The more valued the car is, the more they don't have a problem taking it in to the people who are skilled to take care of your car so that your car can perform
at a high level.
That's right.
But the focus is not on the performance. If you really ask, the focus is on the relationship that you have with the mechanic. Because the mechanic will make sure that the performance is always on tap. So the real thing is, what is your maintenance schedule that you commit yourself to? Because the car will always perform exactly like it's supposed to if you take it in to all the different maintenance schedulings and all that kind of stuff. And so let's break it down. If you have the relationship with the creator, the performance is not an issue. He'll make sure that every time you open your mouth, it's going to be with wisdom. He'll make sure that every time you use your hands, you're going to render the best service for your patients that can be rendered if your relationship is on tap. Because here's another benefit. Not only is your esteem up now, and you know what you bring to the table because you know who called you to the table, Every time you lift your hands to do something, you're always bringing the best to the table, even if you make mistakes, because of the relationship with the manufacturer.
Wow.
So
right.
just in case all this emotional stuff kind of scares African American men or whatever, we just talking. Let's just keep it automotive. We can make everybody comfortable here. The more expensive the car, the more you're going to focus on keeping that car up to par and in its best condition. And the way to do that is you commit to the maintenance schedule, because the manufacturer knows how to keep your car in top performance condition.
Another way of putting that is, how valuable your car is. And that's the thing about men. We don't value our health or our mental health to the level that we should, because we don't realize how it affects other things. And if we were more in tune with that, we would put that at more of a higher priority. I mean, and I like the whole performance. I mean, we resonate with performance, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what, and so in order for you to perform, the engine's got to be purring, I mean, it's got to be.
Right.
And so, I mean, that's your brain. And so,
right.
I mean, you really have to be firing on all cylinders in order to perform in everything. So,
right.
I love it. I like that analogy. I mean, I've always kind of lived by the Kobe, MJ, Bron sort of mentality, which is just the fact that, listen, they have a coach, they have a trainer, they have a shooting coach, they have a nutritionist, they have all these people in place. Why? So they can work on the process, getting the shots up, having the rhythm. They're working on the process that allows them to perform. The performance doesn't matter, right? So that's what Kobe says. If I miss a shot, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to go back at it the next day. Why? Because it's the process that's there of being consistent with it and tapping into folks who are going to help you excel. Right. So yeah, it's important.
Now, when you raise the self-esteem and you know where it is, where you stand with your maker, now you can just relax with the process, because the process will make sure that the muscle training causes you to hit the results. And you're using your mistakes. You're not trying to keep from making mistakes. You're using mistakes. The Kobes, the MJs, that's where they're putting in the time. They're not on camera when they're putting in the jump shots.
Nope.
They're not doing, but because of who I am, now I perform this way. Because of who I am. I don't perform so that I can be important. I perform because I already am important.
Absolutely.
I do my best. I bring the best to the table because this is whose I am. This is how I was created. What table you gonna bring me to? I don't care what table it is. I'm gonna bring the thunder to whatever table you bring me to.
Dude.
That's like what Kobe said. They said, you're a great basketball player. He said, no, I'm not a great basketball player. I'm a great person. I'm a great person. He's like, that just happens to be what I do.
I just happen to be playing basketball right now.
That's right.
Dude,
that's a different mindset, guys.
That is. That's a Mamba mentality right there.
Right.
I would like to say that's healthy swag. That is someone who knows himself. This is healthy swag. Guys, this has been a great conversation. Yes. I wish we could go on. Maybe just one final thought that we could say to the fellas out there listening about, that are down on themselves or for making mistakes or feeling like they're a failure. Just some closing words on or thoughts that you have.
Do you want to go first, Columbus?
Yeah, go ahead. If
same thing I say to men that I say to women. You're enough. You're enough.
Good one.
That's it. You're enough.
Yeah. Quentin.
I think mine would be, someone told me one time, be kind to yourself. And I was like, wow, because sometimes we can be very hard, very judgmental, condemning of ourselves, and just to be kind, give yourself some grace, some compassion,
because you won't treat anybody else better than how you treat yourself. If you're abusive towards yourself, you're going to be abusive to whoever is around you. My thing, so that self-compassion is huge, and you got to have a whole segment just on self-compassion. I would say you are not your failures. You are not your mistakes.
Very good.
You are not your screw-ups. You are not your shortcomings. You're much bigger than that.
Absolutely.
Those are just opportunities that serve as stepping stones if you will learn from them.
Wow. Hey, the book says all things, not some things, all things work together for the good of those that love God. According to his purpose. No, man. I mean, since we're dropping verses, but
I love this.
Man, this has been great. Listen, man, I hope you come back, Joey, and spread love. I'm sorry.
Listen to that. Look at that.
You like that? No, but yeah, I mean, there's some health issues out there that I think we should talk about as well. And I know, Joey, you have a story to tell, so I'd like you to come back at some point to talk about your health journey. So thank you guys once again for participating in this. This has been a great discussion.
Yes.
I hope to have many more of these. So until then, peace out, guys.
All right.
Thank you. God bless you.